Hi guys, today I'm going to do a review on my 2007 Buick Lucerne CX. And with my car, I put on 36,000 miles a year, so I have to have a big car that'll get through the snow for my job. And for years, I'd always had Park Avenue Ultras and Buick LeSabres. But I remember when the Buick Lucerne came out, and I thought they were just the coolest looking car. And I wanted one for how long? They were so darn expensive though. So that with that car, normally I buy my cars at 115,000 and trade them in at 199,000 before they start nickel and diming you with little things that'll go wrong. Well, that car, those were so expensive that when I bought the 2007, I bought it from the Ford dealership, and it actually had 129,000 miles on it. That's how I got it a little bit cheaper. And that car, it had the button on the dash to turn the traction control off. But there was something that really ticked me off about that car after I bought it. Um, that has like a Chevy security system in there, and the same with the Chevy Impalas, where if you have the engine running and you get out of the car and shut the door, you'll walk away after like 1 or 2 seconds delay or whatever, and it'll lock the doors. It'll lock you out of your own car. And I actually had that happen as soon as I bought it out to my grandparents' place, and it locked me out with the engine running, and I had to call AAA and wait for them to come out there and lock that door. So that was a constant concern for me in the Midwest with our winters. You know, you pull up to a gas station, and normally you like to leave your car running so that the windows stay defrosted and everything. That car, I'd have to shut it off and pull the keys every time, throw them in my pocket, because there was always the risk that it would lock me out. And I remember one time on my way to work, it was the middle of the night, and because we go to work at like 1 in the morning, and I went ahead and I rolled down the window just a little bit or whatever in case that thing would lock me out, because I wanted to leave the car running, and I didn't even slam the door that hard, and it just shattered the window. Like it didn't bust everywhere, but it just like spidered everywhere, and of course I couldn't roll it. I rolled it back up or whatever, but I had to order in a new window, and I had to be replacing that in my cold garage in the middle of the winter time. So, yeah, but yeah, the car did amazing in snow though. It really just pawed through when you turned off that traction control off button. That you have to make sure that when you choose a car that it has that button on the dash, or else I don't suggest buying them. And so I'd say probably at like 175,000 miles, my grandpa passed away, and my brother and his wife, they decided, well, his girlfriend at the time, they decided to buy a Buick Lucerne too, because they're like, "How has that car been for you?" And I was like, "It's been really good." So they ended up, instead of getting a CX like mine, where it's got cloth seats and everything, they spent mega bucks on one that had low miles on it, only like 60,000 miles on it, jet black. Leather inside of it and everything. And that thing was a total nightmare for them. They stuck so much money into it. What was happening is that it had dual climate control in it, and like my brother's side, the driver's side, it got toasty warm and everything, but it wouldn't kick out any heat on the passenger side seat. So my brother's girlfriend, her feet were just freezing in the wintertime, and they spent like $2,500 on it at the dealership trying to figure out what was wrong with this car. And I don't think they even got it fixed in the end. And eventually they just went ahead and they traded off the car. And I was like, man, that sucks, because I had such good luck with mine. Knock on wood. At 191,000, it was like 40 below, and I came into work to I had some training and a meeting going on. And I left at probably like noon, and I never let my cars warm up. I've never let them over the years. So I hopped in and I made it probably 10 miles down the road, made it to a stop sign, and I turned off the road, and I went to go kick in my cruise control like I always do, and it just brings it up to speed. The cruise control, it made it all the way up to speed limit, and all of a sudden it shut the cruise control off. And I was like, what the heck? That was weird. So I went ahead and I tapped the button to resume cruise control, and it worked until I went up a hill, and as soon as I peaked at the top of the hill, shut off the cruise control again. And I looked over at the check engine light, and it would flash every time that I just got up to the top of a hill or whatever. And what was happening, I took it to the dealership, one of the mechanics in town, a really good technician. He's worked on a lot of those 3.8 liters. And he said, man, that's weird. So he hooked up his stuff and he's like, yeah, you have just a very slight misfire because I couldn't, the car seemed to be running good, it was getting the same gas mileage and everything. He's like, you have a slight misfire. So he went ahead and he put in some like fuel injector cleaner and stuff inside of it, and it never took the problem away. Or he claimed that it took the problem away. Well, I test drove it a mile down the road or whatever, and the problem came right back. And I was like, well, I'm gonna see what else I can do. So I went ahead and I changed out all new spark plugs, all new spark plug wires. I changed out all new ignition coils, and then there's like this little block, this rectangle block that all your ignition coils sit on. It's got 3 ignition coils, and I changed that out, and the problem still never went away. So I took it back to the mechanic, and I was like, hey, I changed all this ignition stuff and that fuel cleaner too. Oh, and then also I went ahead and I swapped. It said it was like a misfire on like cylinder number 1. So I swapped my fuel injector from cylinder number 1 to cylinder number 6 or whatever, and it never moved. So that's how you tell. So it wasn't a fuel injector either. It wasn't a fuel problem. So I talked to the mechanic about it, and he's like, well, I tell you what, he's like, I could tear the engine apart, but he's like, how much money do you want to stick into it? So, because he's like, I'm sure he's guessing that there was probably a little bit of carbon buildup on one of the valves, and that was causing the fuel to, combust early or whatever, and that will cause you to have a slight misfire. And I was like, man, I was like, the thing's at 191,000 miles, and at 199, I traded off. I was like, I'm not going to stick that kind of money into it. So it just got so annoying with me being on the night shift at my job that, you're kind of in trucker trance driving your 110 miles home that I drive every day. So I went ahead and I sold it. And a guy that had a high school kid for their first car, he's like, yeah, I want a big car that my kid will be safe in. And I'm like, yeah, this car will be safe for your kid, but they'll just have to accept that you guys aren't going to have cruise control. And he's like, oh, I'm fine with that. He's like, for the short drive that our kids drive, they won't need the cruise control, and they'll probably be goofing off anyway, so probably better not to have it on for them. But yeah, for somebody with a night shift job like me, and you're trying to get home, I'd be down to 45 miles an hour if you're just that tired and everything. So it'd take forever to get home. So would I suggest buying a Buick Lucerne? Absolutely not. My brother's, like I said, his was a lemon, and mine was good for quite a while. But then with that misfire that we just could not diagnose, I don't think most of you are going to like going on long trips across the U.S. without cruise control. That'll really wear out your feet and really fatigue you on long drives. So I'd stay away from them, even though they are cool looking cars. All right, later.